Alrighty guys, it is Quaman here today, and I'm bringing you another Dragon Ball discussion about Frieza and the Tournament of Power. But as always, if you haven't caught up to episode 126, this video will contain major spoilers, and to tell you guys the honest truth, I tried to title this video in the most vague way possible so that you guys wouldn't get spoiled by my title, even though it might give you a clue as to what happened in the episode itself. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. Let's get this party started. So I want to talk to you guys about Frieza today and how he went missing in episode 126. And if you guys are looking at the screen right now, I'm playing a quick image for you guys to see that there was a point in the episode where there was a crossover between the fights of Goku and Vegeta and Frieza and Android 17, where Jiren fired an energy blast at Android 17 and Frieza. There was a major explosion. Goku was nervous that 17 and Frieza got injured, and from then on, Frieza never showed up for the rest of the episode. And a lot of people have been theorizing, is this something that is saying Frieza is really hurt, or is this saying that Frieza is actually planning something? And to tell you guys the truth, I actually think it's kind of a combination of both. But the first thing we have to do is we have to analyze Android 17. So when you look at the ending to 126, Android 17 actually emerged from what we would have expected, this large blast that Jiren fired at him, seemingly battle weary, but he did emerge from this, but he did seem very hurt by what actually happened. And because of this makes us wonder what happened to Frieza. But the thing that we have to look at with Android 17 is that, first of all, there are three major differences as to why 17 could have gotten up from this a lot easier than Frieza. He's not as battle-weary as Frieza is because, first of all, Frieza was beaten up by Toppo significantly worse than 17 was. And then when we also factor in that 17 has limitless energy and stamina, he can fight forever, whereas Frieza, who is more of a biological creation, he can't just get up from a major attack the same way that 17 could because of how much limitless energy 17 has. And this was shown many years ago when Piccolo was fighting 17, and although 17 was exhausting a lot of power against Piccolo, he was telling him that if the fight continued, Piccolo would have tired out because he was a biological creation, and how he would have tired out as opposed to how 17 could have just kept going on and on and on, even if they were equal in terms of power. And the third part about this, guys, is actually dealing with the fact that Android 17 has an energy barrier. So if this was a blast at point blank range and Frieza wasn't able to be shielded by 17 is able to protect himself at a quick notice a lot easier than Frieza would be able to. So when you factor in 17's ability to have limitless energy, 17 being, obviously having more, or should I say less damage in the fights leading up to this moment, and when you factor in that 17 has an energy barrier, it makes sense why 17 can recover from this a lot easier than Frieza could. But this leads us into a much bigger discussion, and this is dealing with, is Frieza somewhat planning something in this fight against Jiren? So, if you think about it, guys, in theory, if you put 4 powerful characters against Jiren as opposed to 3 characters against Jiren, the odds are stacked heavily in Universe 7's favor, because if Frieza were to join in on the fight, then that obviously increases your odds to defeating Jiren, because Jiren now has to deal with 4 people as opposed to 3. But the thing is, guys, is you have to factor in who Frieza is as a character. When you look at how cunning Frieza has been over the years, and when you factor in how selfish Frieza actually is as a character in trying to get himself resurrected and to sneak up on his opponents the same way that he was sneaking up on Toppo throughout all of the battles thus far, it makes sense for Frieza to not want to join in on the fray a lot more than Android 17, Goku, or Vegeta would. And in Vegeta's case, Vegeta is more battle-weary than arguably anybody, considering the fact that he just did that whole final explosion attack, even though the preview is showing Vegeta fighting as a Super Saiyan Blue in the very next episode, which is bizarre. But going back to Frieza, guys, I think we can all say that if we were to create a theory that were to make sense about what Frieza is actually planning out, I think it's most logical for Frieza to stay back and observe what goes on. As we saw going back to the initial fight between Goku versus Jiren, Frieza actually specifically told Goku that he needs Goku around because he's the only one who could fight against Jiren with his Ultra Instinct state. And if you guys would remember, Frieza actually gave Goku energy so that he could continue fighting. So obviously, Frieza is very aware of how much of an investment it is for Goku to fight against Jiren. And also, when you look at the fact that Toppo was also demonstrating himself as a god of destruction, and Jiren in the most previous episode and at the end of the episode was showing how much power he still has left to fight, if Frieza is observing what is going on, he knows that Jiren is not holding back and he has a lot more power that he can actually give off in battle as opposed to what the other characters have. And if I were to talk to you guys about some spoilers that really don't give a lot away, we have to talk about the episode 127 spoilers. And the episode 127 spoilers say absolutely nothing about Frieza. As a matter of fact, even if you look at the preview for episode 127, Frieza is nowhere to be seen, which tells me that this is going to be a long-running thing in Dragon Ball Super until the story ends, where Frieza is going to be sitting back and watching what is going on until he actually decides to jump in on the battle and to fight against Jiren until it is absolutely necessary. And this brings me into my final point that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So, as I made a video a few days ago talking about Android 17 and a theory I had that will Android 17's strategy of essentially trying to run out the clock work with Universe 7. And initially, I said that that would be rejected because Goku wouldn't allow that to happen. But when you factor in that Frieza is going to be a wild card that is observing the battle from the fray while three characters are fighting Jiren, that isn't to say that Frieza will actually allow this technique to work against Jiren, but I don't think we can definitely say that that doesn't mean that Frieza won't at least attempt to do this, because I think Frieza realizes that if I have three characters fighting against Jiren and they can just hold him off for the next 4 minutes, all I have to do is survive, observe what goes on, and then I'll be victorious at the end even without even having to fight against Jiren, because if I were to fight him directly one-on-one, I'm gonna be in a bad position. And I definitely think Frieza realizes this. I think he's analyzing the state of Goku and Vegeta and realizing that they don't have a lot of fight left in them, and that if this battle were to go on based off of how much energy Jiren has, even though it's stacked in terms of a 4-to-1 odds, Jiren definitely has the greatest chance of this. And I think looking at 127's title in the preview, it's referred to as Android 17's last stand with his final energy barrier, which is telling us that as the Tournament of Power is continuing, Android 17 himself is going to be obviously giving up himself to fight against Jiren, as we also see him using that energy barrier in the preview, which means that the time is running out for Universe 7, not only in terms of how many fighters they have left, but in terms of how long they can last, guys. So, although before I said that it is unlikely for that technique to work, I do think that as the Tournament of Power continues, that Frieza is going to have to figure out another strategy in defeating Jiren, because other than Ultra Instinct, there really is no conventional way that you can take Jiren down. And ultimately, guys, I think the one thing that I should leave you with in this video is dealing with your thoughts on this, because honestly, guys, I feel like there's a lot of different ways that we can view how this can end. I think we could view this in terms of Frieza, you know, obviously ad-libbing the situation and trying to preserve himself to stop Jiren, or do you think Frieza will actually try to just stall the fight out? And based off of the predictions that we've had so far with Dragon Ball Super, I think Goku and Vegeta have too much pride to let the battle drag out. I think theoretically Goku and Vegeta would want to just continue fighting as much as they can, even though 17 and Frieza, surprisingly the previous villains, are the ones that are actually smarter in the situation and they would be more evasive of Jiren's actual character. And the funny thing about all of this is that when you look at Jiren specifically, it makes you wonder how Jiren is going to play a role into all of this, because even if Jiren did manage to knock out Goku, Vegeta, and Android 17, you gotta think to yourself that Jiren could easily just find Frieza and just knock him out of the ring. But who knows, maybe Frieza has like a trick attack up his sleeve that he could obviously use on Jiren to defeat him in the Tournament of Power, and that could obviously give Universe 7 the victory. So ultimately, guys, that's been all of what I have to say for Dragon Ball Super episode 127. All of my thoughts on why Frieza is hiding, kind of having more of a roundtable discussion. And I want to hear all of your thoughts in the comment section below as to what you think Frieza's actual intentions are in all of this, and how you think Frieza might actually end up being the hero if his strategy manages to work out in the very end. So with everything else said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys, and let me know all of your thoughts about Frieza.